I went to Dr. Joe's retreat last month. I saw people getting out of wheelchair after 18 years just through the power of their mind. Absolutely insane energy. I have never felt so much love in my entire life. Like I was vibrating on another level.
Dr. Joe Dispenza,
researcher and best-selling author.
He's one of the most sought-after speakers in the world.
All with the aim of helping people better understand and unlock the power of their mind.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wiser Together. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this. We truly appreciate your presence and support. If you are new to the channel, I am Parmeet, and with me is the second host of the podcast, Anas Pasha. Today's episode is about Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you've been on the channel before, we have referred to Dr. Joe and his work numerous times. I think especially for myself, he's been a great mentor and teacher. I've studied a lot of his work. I really resonate with it as well, and we'll get down to why that is. But I had the great privilege of actually going to one of his retreats. So, if you don't know who Dr. Joe is, let me just introduce him briefly. He's one of the best selling authors. He has about 4 books on the mind body connection. He's also a chiropractor, an international lecturer, researcher, just great teacher in this line of work who has very genuine intentions and someone who's created very profound impact. And I had the privilege of seeing that firsthand with my own eyes. So Dr. Joe, when he was 26, he had an accident while on a bike and he broke 6 of his vertebrae. And despite receiving opinions from leading surgeons for the spine in the area. He's from California. He was told to get the surgery done where they put a rod in your spine. But then he was always studying hypnotism, mysticism, mind body connection, pure consciousness, and then just using the power of presence and meditation. He healed himself just using his mind. No medication, no drugs, no surgery, nothing. He was up and walking after 3 months when the doctors told him that he might be partially paralyzed for his whole life and might be on medication and stuff. So to him, it was very simple going down that road of not getting the surgery, which could have been detrimental if it didn't go the way he wanted it to, and really going down this path of discovering the power of the mind and using that to really bring about genuine healing in himself and then around the world. And as he healed himself, he then went on this journey of studying spontaneous remissions and healings in people. One example that might resonate with a lot of people would be there was an accident of a woman and a kid. And after the accident, the kid was under the car and this woman literally lifted the car and got the kid out of the or under the car. So it's stuff like this, which really shows us that push come to shove, we can harness supernatural abilities. Have you heard of this incident?
Yeah, I was about to say, so for the people listening, I'm sure in a lot of instances you must have seen or heard these sort of stories. When Parmeet told me about these things and when he talked about this incident, it also recalled in my mind because I have seen this video. I have. And it was mind boggling for me because we have seen this with athletes and with other people as well, but I don't think we've ever understood what is
Yeah.
happening at that moment. And Parmeet and I had, like a catch up session as well. And Parmeet told me these amazing stories. So I'm sure, like the viewers as well, and like me, I'm quite excited about getting down to all of these stories and actually understanding what's the science, what is happening behind, and how we can also use these techniques.
Absolutely. So, going back to that, that was one story that has been documented and studied, and there's a lot of peer reviewed studies on it as well. But I went to Dr. Joe's retreat last month. It was in Marco Island, Florida. There was about 1,400 people. To my surprise, that was one of the smallest ones. Usually, he has a few thousand people, two, three, 4,000.
Damn.
Yeah, some of them even have 5,000 people. Imagine 5,000 people meditating together. It's absolutely insane. It was 7 days long. It was his 62nd one. So he's done 60 before already. These are week long retreats. He's been doing them since past 2 or 3 decades. A lot of the people I met there, it was in their first time. Someone I met, it was their 15th time. So people are really obsessed with this work, and it shows why, because they get results. It's by no means cheap. I think it was roughly about 1,000 USD per day, including food, accommodation, and the teachings. But I guess the value of it is subjective. How do you put a value on something that changes your life? It can't be quantifiable, but I just wanted to put it out there that yeah, it's by no means cheap. It is an investment, but it was very worthwhile in my subjective opinion, and according to my circumstances. So that disclaimer: people coming there were by no means hippies or mystics, or most of the people I met there, physicians, doctors, psychologists, breathwork instructors, like very well-to-do, educated
People of
people.
science.
Yes, and they're way ahead in their career as well. It's not everybody can afford a $7,000 7 day retreat, right? So
Of course.
these are people who have really seen the result, and they've done well in their life. They have a level of, basic or very advanced understanding of certain discipline of science which they specialize in. And that's what Dr. Joe does. Is I think he's taken in a lot of the things so what we were doing there, it's all about healing, tapping into going from 3D to 5D, and using your mind body connection to bring about meaningful and lasting change. I, with my own eyes, through a lot of testimonials, saw people overcome cancer, Alzheimer's. There was a person who been in a wheelchair for 18 years, and he overcame that, and he got up on his 2 feet out of the wheelchair after a meditation. There was this person who was blind, started looking. I had another testimonial, this woman who was half deaf for 41 years, and she healed herself. And most of these changes or healings don't occur in a flash. There's a lot of work that goes into it for months or perhaps even years, but it's like moving through the eye of a needle. They spend about 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. It just depends. Everyone's journey is different to try and get to that point where they can move through the eye of the needle. And what comes about is, it can't be put into words, but it just changes everything they've ever believed. Because imagine just having the understanding, just me uttering these words as well, that you can heal these chronic conditions just using the power of the
I know.
mind, is mind blowing.
And I know what the viewers must be thinking right now, because when Parmeet told me about this initially, I was a bit, your mind speaks to yourself, and it starts asking questions, it starts questioning reality, because these things you don't listen or hear about them quite often. But we have. We must have heard about such stories in our relatives or friends, and this and that we have. But Parmeet has seen them in real life and have sat next to them. And like Parmeet set the stage, these are not just people. Number one, like the cost of entry to such an event is so high that only people of mean or resources can enter. And I just want to say thank you to Parmeet as well, because this is what we're trying to do with this podcast, with this community, because we want to amplify this knowledge. We want to share this knowledge. Now, this is not medical advice or anything. Of course, do your own research and everything. But
Absolutely.
what you choose to do with this information is totally up to you. You can for sure deny it, put it in the dustbin, no problem. But if you choose to listen to the rest of the podcast, Parmeet will explain and break it down like he did for me in such a beautiful manner, as best as he can,
Yeah.
in a way that will open another eye, that will open another part of your perception that these things do exist and there is a world out there. And yeah, I mean, I'll leave it to Parmeet, because what he goes on to say is absolutely amazing. And I think he does a great job.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that, Anas. And a good disclaimer for everyone: this by no means is an end point, is a starting point. We're just approaching this with a lot of curiosity. I also have 100 questions in my mind because we live in the same society who's been told a certain thing at certain times, that things happen in a certain way, certain diseases or conditions are uncurable, blah blah blah. We all know the prevalent narrative that is.
Let me just add one more thing, guys. If you wanna like forget about us right now, um, open our episode with Rami. All right. Rami himself on the podcast told us exactly how he beat cancer.
Absolutely.
We already have done this, we already seen this, we already believe this. Now, what is
Yeah.
in your court?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, people do believe that miracles are possible, and we've seen stuff. Miracle is only something that can't be proven by science, right? Until it is. Everything that exists today was a miracle at some point. Until then, until it was proven by science. So what Dr. Joe is really doing is he says miracle that happens once is an incident. A miracle happening twice is a coincidence, but if it's happening again and again and again, it becomes a principle, and we need to understand it and find the reasons and causes behind it. So this is what Dr. Joe is doing in spirituality, different traditions, be it Egyptian philosophy, Greek philosophy, Hinduism. All of these Eastern philosophies talk about this higher power, that we are way more capable than we think we are, that mind is the source of all limitations, that we have this, what they call now, consciousness. Can essentially in Hinduism say there's a God within each one of us, right? And I don't want to sound controversial or anyone, but I'm just trying to explain this in the best way possible, right? In Hinduism, they say there's a God in each one of us. It's called the Atma, it's called the spirit. That spirit is eternal, it's timeless, it's formless, can't be comprehended. It comes into form with wherever you put your attention on. I think I'm going on a tangent here, so let me start
No,
from
it's
the
fine.
let me
It's
start from
fine.
the beginning. I think going back to my experience,
Yes.
start off with the retreat, and I'll take you guys step by step, because I think this is very confusing for myself as well, and I want to try and explain it in the best way possible. So, going back to the retreat, absolutely insane energy. I have never felt so much love in my entire life. Like, I was vibrating on another level. We I've never received so many hugs, haven't had so many deep conversations. The people I met maybe 5 minutes ago, the conversations I was having with them were ones I haven't had even with like my closest friends, right? So I think everybody comes there with a very genuine intention, and when all of that comes together, it amplifies, and you can see and sort of channel other person's belief to harness your own and amplify your own. So just being there, everybody in the same energy, I think that community aspect really makes a difference as well. Dr. Joe keeps saying, we've seen time and time again, when one person in the tribe does something, everyone follows. And the retreat, if somebody's breaking through when a paralyzed person starts walking, he saw four more. It's like breaking the 4 minute mile. Roger Bannister did it in early 1930s, but after that, well, 1930, 60, I can't remember. But after that, that same year, I think 15, 20 other people broke the same record. Something that's never been done, but when it was done once, it created that model of pursuit for other people, and everybody went down that road. And now we're almost at doing a 4 minute mile marathon, right? How crazy is that? I think when these healings take place in one person, the community really notices that energy and harnesses it, and they receive the benefit of it as well. We did a lot of meditations of coming back to the present, being present, getting beyond yourself, and really connecting to the higher energy. And these are all very philosophical, abstract terms, but I want to put it in a very objective way, because what Dr. Joe is essentially saying is, and I'm going to be using a lot of his language, because he is someone who's really, he doesn't want to be it a spiritual woo woo or something that is happening out of miracle, which we have no understanding for. He's literally bridging the gap between science and spirituality. In spirituality, we know we're limitless, we're an expression of God. Even in Bible they say, Jesus says, right, I am how you think of me. So Dr. Joe is essentially doing is using those spiritual teachings in the Vedas, Upanishads, Hinduism, Greek philosophy, Egyptian philosophy, and then really bridging that with science to collect evidence that and a model that can be replicated across different conditions and across different ethnicities of people. So, what we learned there was from a very scientific, a lot of this podcast has been very spiritual, but now we're taking a shift. And I want to explain the science side of things, like using that terminology, which is very objective and a singular line of focus for everyone listening, right? So, we live in a three-dimensional world. We all understand this. You take a dot, which is one dimensional, you take two dots, draw a line in between, that's two dimensional. You take a square and push it out, turn it into a cube, that's three dimensional. What's beyond, we know it exists, we've measured it through science, but we can't comprehend it through our current level of the tools we have as humans, which are our senses. Everything we see around us, that information is collected through our senses. That is your input of everything that is around you coming into you. It's that input. It's through your eyes, through your ears, through your touch, through your five senses, right? So we live in a three-dimensional world, and our senses can only perceive up until three dimensions. Fourth dimensional can't be perceived as a human, can't be perceived as through our five senses, but it exists. And then there is five dimensional. So
Correct. So just to also for the people watching and listening, I would recommend watching this part. Parmeet showed me an image as well, which basically illustrates what Parmeet is talking about. It's a very nice image, which basically shows our limit of vision up until where the human eye can see, and it's mind blowing because the rest of the spectrum towards the left and the right, there is just so much to see that we cannot
yeah,
see at the moment because of certain limitations. So we'll put that up. So for the people watching, you'll be able to just see, and for the people listening, just tune in for this part.
yeah, absolutely. What he's referring to is the light spectrum. There's a sound spectrum. Uh, on the whole spectrum, there's only a tiny sliver of light that we can perceive. It's basically the rainbow colors, right? Uh, Reflecting on the most stable form of matter. You can't actually see light. Think about it, right? Because if you see the space between the sun and the earth, you won't see light, you will see darkness. But when that light is reflected upon the most stable form of energy, which is matter, which is your table, everything that you see still in your environment is 3D, it's matter. Light reflecting on the most stable form of energy, that is what you can see. And that is the world we live in, three dimensional. Everything matter is three dimensional. And this is the realm of space and time. There is space and there is time. Say you're here and there's a door in front of you and you want to cross that door. You will think about it first, put your consciousness there. And as you move through space in the three dimensional world from one point to the other point, it takes time,
Certainly.
right? Say you want to go to the toilet, you put your consciousness on the toilet, you move through space from wherever you are to go to the toilet, and that takes time. So from point A to point B, you have, in a three-dimensional world, you have to move through space and time, right? And we do this on a daily basis in pretty much everything. Going to the office, you think of it, you move through space, and it takes time, right? This is our three-dimensional world. You can't think of it and reach there, can you? No, you have to move through space and time because we are living in a three-dimensional world.
I think no, for the people listening, it's okay if you want to rewind as well. Listen to it again. I also had to ask Pramit a lot of questions, but these are things that we just do, like reflexes, like muscle memory.
Without knowing, yeah.
Yeah, and we never really think about it. But if you just rewind and listen to what Pramit said, yeah, I mean, what he's done is he's basically explained movement or doing any form of thing in a very basic scientific way. And we've all learned this in our science, in our physics class, back in school, in high school. So it's just a matter of revising these things, but very well explained.
Yeah, so absolutely. That's the laws of the 3D world. But fundamentally, as Einstein said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the vibration of that energy, and there's no other way but to attract it. And that's the law the world works on, be it planes, the cars, the computers, the phones. They all work by these laws of energy. We're all to our core can be broken down into atoms. Now they've broken down atom as well. They consist of electrons and protons and all of those different molecules. But essentially, we're all made of atoms, right? And atoms is nothing but energy. Fundamentally, we're all energy, and every energy has frequency. Frequency is nothing but a wave of information emitted by that energy that is a description of what that energy is about, right? Say a radio station emitting a wave or frequency. Frequency is nothing but a wave. That's how it's mathematically displayed. In reality, we don't know how it is because we can't perceive it.
I think in reality, like we have these cliches, like good vibe or oh, this guy had good energy. Like people sort of describe it that
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
and they are experiencing some sort of that. Like maybe they felt good after meeting someone, or quite the opposite. That's how they. I think that's the basic level of experience that we have, but we're never able to measure or quantify it. It's just a feeling that we get.
It's subjective, and it's but there's something there, and people can feel it, but it's subjective. Through science we can measure it and put it into a term, or in a visual way that is understood by us, which is in a wave, in a frequency. But a good way to look at this is there's several experiments done wherein you can do this at home as well. Take a sheet of paper and put it above a speaker and put salt on it, play any music, and you see patterns being made on that piece of paper. Different frequency of music, different patterns, right? And those patterns are just information about what the energy is, right? So we're
And
all
then your eardrum basically converts that into music or whatever it is.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then there's I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but we never perceive things, music, light, objects in a similar manner. We might be looking at the same thing and calling it red, but in your head it looks completely different, right? But it just happens to be that when we look at that thing objectively, we're looking at the same thing and we give it the same, like, identification and label, but in our head it maybe red is associated to something different in your life than it is to me, right? So that's the difference. So fundamentally, we're all energy. Energy has frequency, and frequency is a wave, it's a vibration, right? And the law of vibration is that when vibration matches, attraction happens, you know when you vibrate on the same frequency, you attract. And that is as simple as in your car, you put on a certain radio station, you tune into 121.6, and it catches the frequency of 121.6, and you can channel whatever information that is being passed on through that frequency, right? And this
Or
has,
when people say, like my vibe matches with this person,
yeah,
like
like they say,
they're
your
foremost saying,
vibe
yeah,
attracts your tribe,
yeah.
which is exact. All these things point to the same thing, which is
Yes.
essentially,
So basically, people know about these things.
yeah,
That's why these things came about. Otherwise, they could have said XYZ,
yeah.
not this.
But it's looked on very. It's like one of those things that you just say, but you don't fundamentally like believe it or have evidence to look at it through a perspective where you have that sense of knowing that okay, this is how it is, and your life is very much a result of that. You adopt that knowing and to move throughout life, right? But we come down to the 3D, we move through the 3D world. So going forward, scientists have There's a field of energy that is called 5D, right? That is permeating throughout the world. Everything is made of atoms, so it is atoms, but that field of energy, we can't perceive it through our senses because our senses only allow us to perceive things up to the 3D dot, line, and a cube. What comes beyond the cube? There is something, but humans can't perceive it. Does that make sense? But you can feel it. At the core, we are consciousness, right? And consciousness is nothing but awareness. It's energy, it's attention. How I put it is like, what is one thing that is unchanging in your life? And that, I guess, that is a good way to look at what you fundamentally are, right? I know your name doesn't change, but people can call you by different names. You can change your name tomorrow, go to the court, and you can change your name, right? But that doesn't fundamentally change your sense of who you call you. Your body changes, your friends change, your relationships changes, your possessions change,
Everything is changes.
everything. That's the law. Like nothing
Are
is.
you referring to the soul, or you
Yes,
would
I'm
call it
referring to
consciousness?
the soul, the spirit, consciousness. It's called quantum field. It's called singular field, mother father principle. There's a lot of names given to it through science, through spirituality. But that is that one thing. It's the thing that is watching this experience, right? And that consciousness is just awareness. Whatever, it's formless, but it comes into form as soon as you put it on. So, say I put my attention on the laptop in front of me, my consciousness becomes that. If I'm having a certain thought, my consciousness becomes that. So, it takes the shape of whatever we put our energy to or attention on. But fundamentally, it's nothing.
So, from my perspective, when Parmeet was telling me about these things, how I put it as a person again, like you, this was probably my third time Parmeet is explaining this to me, but it might be your first. How I perceived it was, and maybe Parmeet could correct me, is like a athlete, when the athlete is in the zone and they're just performing so well, like everything that they're touching is becoming gold. And or like this mother in this incident, when her child was underneath that car, she put all of her being into lifting that car, although on surface we might think she might not be able to, but she did. Or any other spectacular performance that a person might put up, or any other miracle that they might put up in that moment of time. For me, that was what Parmeet, basically, when he and I were talking, like, for me, that was like the explanation. Or if you're an anime fan, when Goku, let's say, turned Ultra Instinct, right? These are just um,
Yeah.
and again, I think Parmeet will elaborate, but for me, it was like momentarily like burst of this high focus into that particular task or an activity, where basically, like, you just tapped into the 5D, and because of that, like, for a while your full potential came into display. And we've seen this, like, history is filled with such geniuses, such people, again, like I said, whether in sports, business, whatever field, you can pick, but these things happen. And this is what I want to talk to Parmit about later on in this podcast, but and how to, like, basically extend that period, because we always see momentarily burst of these things. So I don't know if I were to able to explain this in a layman.
No, absolutely. Like those are really, it's a good way and example to give to people wherein they can things they've experienced in their own life, be it through Goku or Japanese anime, or there's a lot of cartoons and stuff wherein would have seen these things in
I think
it's an instant.
military would also be a very good example. Acts of bravery.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like there's so many examples, right? But we just, it's like any other thing. If your mind can't comprehend it, you move beyond it and just label it a miracle
Or
or
people
whatever it
say
may
that
be,
this
right?
is hocus pocus or fugazi or whatever the case is.
Woo woo.
Uh,
At the core, we are pure consciousness. And then on top of that, we have a body. We're in a certain space, in a certain time. We have an identity, we have a past, we have our thoughts, we have our dislikes, likes, possessions, relationships, job, community, friends, blah, 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 like all on top of it. But if you remove everything at the core, you are pure consciousness, right? And you're connected to that field. When you're pure consciousness, that field is also pure consciousness, right? Which is formless. Your consciousness is formless. That field is also formless. Scientists have measured, and they don't know what it is, but 100, out of the 100% of the matter in our world, 70% is dark matter, which we don't know what it is. Like, they call it nothing. Out of that 30%, um 20%, 27% is dark energy, again consists of nothing. Out of the 3% left, which is our the 3D world we can
Like
see.
this, the Earth, the universe. That's it. 3%.
Yes, only 3% is
What?
what is made of what we can see. Like, the chances you are perceiving reality as it is exactly zero, because scientists have discovered this. Those 3%, 99.99999% of that 3% is nothing. But it comes into form. Say I'm looking at a phone, but I look at it as a laptop, it will become a laptop for me in my
Mhm.
consciousness if I've identified to it as a laptop.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So it takes the form of whatever form you give it. And we see this in our life as well, right? You can perceive a certain situation through 100 different angles, through 100 different moods in a different way. There's different ways of looking at everything.
It is very easy to understand. All right. And we do this every day. We do this for everything. All right. You know what? I'm going to go on a tangent. Imagine if you liked a girl. All right. And you're at the age of getting married, right? You're going to look at that girl. And of course, at this point of time, like you don't know the girl, you think she's pretty, blah, blah, blah. And if in one corner of your mind, if you put in the effort or the energy to consider her as your wife, then what is essentially happening is that through time and moving and of course putting in attention and effort, you're going to essentially change that stranger girl through some efforts and action into your wife. Now, I mean, people who are married, I'm sure at first, whoever they're married to right now, they didn't think of it this way, but it eventually did come into their mind, right? It all started with a thought, correct? It all started with a
Yes.
thought. I mean, you must have thought about it before even going asking anyone, right? That's what we do. So that's one way of looking at it, just to give you a very another perspective to this. Another of it is like an example that I always like to use is of Wright brothers, right? When they invented the airplane. At that point, no one in their wild imagination would have thought that a human being could fly like in a machine, like put things together, put this tool, this wood, this nail, this hammer, and then create an object that would essentially make us fly. And where we are right now, with way things are going in terms of AI and everything, we're thinking about things, um, robots or humanoids or cyborgs or teleportation or living in Mars, for example. All of these things, like Parmeet said, are starting from the imagination. Are someone has to think about it first. There must be a thought that is originated, right? So I
Yes.
hope that give you like a basic idea of how these things start and then eventually come into tradition.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you have a thought, you put your consciousness on the thought. There is a sense of separation where you are currently in space and time and that thought. And then you move through space, do certain things in a certain way, which it takes time. And eventually you get to the end goal, which is going to the bathroom, marrying your woman, inventing something,
Yes, sir.
right? You move through space and time
Yes,
in the
sir.
3D. But laws of the 5D, fifth dimension, which is called the quantum field, which is pure consciousness, it's different. There is nothing there, no information, it's formless. There is no sense of space and time. Space and time doesn't exist in the 5D, and there is no duality. So I think the next thing I really want to touch on is duality. What duality is. It's the sense of up and down, yin and yang, good and bad, high and low. It's two extremes of spectrum which give you a sense of experience. How was your experience on us doing this podcast? It was great. These things could have been improved. Last time was here, this time was here. There's a sense of perception. You're moving along the spectrum of good and bad, yin and yang. And throughout life, we are having an experience. And to have an experience is to have that spectrum of high and low, or good and bad, and yin and yang. You need to have a reference point, right? But as pure consciousness, there is no duality. You're formless. There is no sense of space and time. There is no sense of experience. You are the experience.
Yeah, it makes sense.
There
Absolutely.
is no good and bad. Every experience you have, you are the experience. Like someone who is, we as humans, we have a prefrontal cortex. So this is the crowning achievement of human evolution. The most, recent development in humans throughout evolution is the prefrontal cortex, which is this part of the brain which is responsible for reasoning, contemplating, questioning, cognition, and stuff, right? Your mind wandering, default mode network, all your thoughts come from here essentially. When this shuts off, and there is ways to do it through breathing, where you can take blood out of this region. If there's no blood, there's no mental activity. And if there's no mental activity there, it doesn't exist. And when we do this certain style of breath work and get beyond this organ in the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for thinking, there is the sense of duality is gone, because you never then question the experience as good or bad. The experience is you are defined by the experience. Does that make sense? But then in order to experience life, we have to come to the 3D, come to the world of senses, come to the world of duality to have an experience. We can't experience life without duality. Without a high or a low, there is no experience. It just is. Like there's no question of good, bad, if, maybe, how, that. It just is. You don't question,
Correct.
right? Like for a lion, they don't question hunting for a deer or whatever they hunt for. They just do it. It's their biology. There is no. They don't think good or bad. Or should I do it? Should I not do it? It's they're hardwired. It's their consciousness is that to hunt, and they hunt. They feed themselves and they survive, and their life goes on. There is no sense of duality. They don't think to themselves, "Oh, I don't want to kill," or "It's bad," or blah 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 blah. That's just how they are. They don't have consciousness per se, but they're predetermined in a certain way.
So
Yeah,
let me just for the people listening, right? Of course, they'll be saying that, of course, we're not animals, and of course, that's why we have this prefrontal cortex, like you explained. That's why we have this sense of duality and everything. Is it like what we're trying to come to a point here is that because of our sense of duality, because of our habit to put things into good experience or bad experience, it holds us back. It holds us back from making the choices that we would.
it doesn't necessarily hold us back. It's the only way to have an experience, because you wouldn't have an experience otherwise. So by having duality, you have an experience, which gives birth to the spectrum. What perspective you view it by is different, right? Then you aren't the experience. There is a separation. As soon as duality is there, there is a separation. You're in the 3D world. There is concept of time and space, and you perceive it in a certain way, which is good for you, maybe bad for someone else. But it gives you a sense of experience, like you experience something. This was good, this was bad. But in the 5D, as pure consciousness, there is no experience. Like you are the experience.
I see.
There is no sense of question or good and bad. So then in order to have an experience, this play this game of life, we have to perceive it through duality in a certain senses to play this game of life. Otherwise there wouldn't be life
Correct.
itself either,
Absolutely.
right? So to have a life, which is your experience, which is rooted in duality, you need to stoop down to a human level where you can perceive things a certain way and have a good or bad, whatever the it may be, an experience. But fundamentally, when you get beyond your senses, you get beyond your space, you get beyond your time, your name, your identity, your habits, your likes, your dislikes, relationships, possessions, everything. Like, forget about everything. What's left is nothing, and that nothing is pure consciousness. You can close your eyes and you can focus on the black darkness, which is nothing essentially, right? And that's nothing is permeating throughout the world, like throughout universes. There's trillions and trillions of universes, and we have measured this energy till then. You can close your eyes and you can just focus on the dark space. You will have thoughts coming in of who you are, what you want to do, what your name is, the errands you want to run, your likes and dislikes, blah blah blah. But at some point, if you keep overcoming that and coming back to nothing, which is pure consciousness, and you get beyond everything that you think of yourself, what makes you you, you get beyond everything known in your life. Everything that you ever know is what makes you human. So if you can get beyond everything you ever know and come back to pure darkness and that black space, which is nothing, you become pure consciousness. That pure consciousness that doesn't have a name, no dislikes, no likes, no family, no possessions, no identity, nothing. And in that pure consciousness, there is no separation. There is no space or time. What the consciousness perceives, it becomes. This happens to us in real life in the 3D as well. When we think of a certain thought, our consciousness becomes that thought and our body reacts to that thought. You could be sitting in a lounge watching your favorite show, but if you've had a traumatic experience and that's going on in your head, that's what your consciousness becomes, and your body is not reacting to the environment, but your mind, what your mind is imagining, right? So once you become pure consciousness, pure presence in a state of no thoughts, no identity, everything, you get beyond everything that you think of as you, whatever is known in your life, you get beyond that. You remove all of that clutter, you come to what is your spirit, your soul, which is pure consciousness. Everything on top of that is noise, which can come in terms of our habits, thoughts, beliefs, actions, feelings, possessions, relationships, job, identity, all of that. So you get beyond all of that, you come to a state which is, I call it presence. It's absence of thoughts. I want to channel this back to what we've been saying from day one, because I think it's fundamentally the same. I'm just discovering new ways to explain it. But what do we say? Presence is absence of thoughts. Thoughts are what make you you. If I ask you, what is your name?
My name is Anas.
Your name was Anas. You had a thought and then you called it out, right? Everything that you do before, it's, you think of it and then you do it, right? Unless it's a state wherein you're pure consciousness and acting out of pure consciousness and you don't think, you act. That mother whose son was under the car, she didn't think, okay, my son will die, let me use all my muscles and lift up this car and get this kid out so I can save him. No, if she would have thought that, she would never be able to channel those abilities. Something higher, a greater intelligence in her took over. If she was conscious, if she was being conscious of her humanness at that point, she would never lift the car, because it's humanly impossible for a 60 kg person to lift a 2000 kilogram car. Like, how is that possible, right? You wouldn't even attempt. If I ask you, Anas, do you want to attempt walking on water? Say, like, no, I'm not stupid. That's not humanly possible, right? So you wouldn't do it. Okay, I don't want to go into religious texts, but there is talks of how Moses split the sea and blah, 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 all of those things. But essentially, as pure consciousness, you don't have a thought. There's just an action rooted from that knowing and of pure consciousness. If you think, you're already running a program. You're back to human, right? You're back to form. Consciousness is formless. Presence is absence of thoughts. Thoughts is what makes us us. Presence is pure consciousness. You're not driven by your biases in the present, right? But in the past, your thoughts are always in the past or the future. And when you think, you're driven by your past or future, and you act accordingly. Say you want to go skydive. If you're pure consciousness, there is no thoughts, there's no sense of experience, you just go with it. But if you have a fear, then you're thinking in the future, in your imagination, you're already going through how much you're going to suffer and how scary it's going to be, and that's limiting your behavior in the present. But that present isn't really present, it's channeled by a fear of the future. So you're living sort of from the future, or a lot of people live from the past. That 5D is pure consciousness, it's pure presence, it's anything that makes you not human. Everything that makes you human, you get rid of that. You're left with pure consciousness, and that pure consciousness is fifth dimensional, where there is no space and time. And once we get to that state where we're no one, nowhere, nobody, nothing, and no time, which is basically getting beyond everything you ever know, which is coming from your past, you become nothing. And that nothing is everything. It is pure consciousness. Why is it everything? Because it's everywhere. That nothing is what the world is made of. Even atoms are 99.99999% nothing. They become something based on the wave they're in. So it's nothing but the wave they're in, then that determines their what they become, what they come into form with, right? Which is then the frequency or whatever the thing is. So once we become this and we have a certain level of a clear intention and we feel an elevated emotion, there is no separation. So when people are at this retreat and they have want to heal their chronic condition, and they become nothing and they become pure consciousness, and they have a very clear intention in their brain, and they feel the gratitude in their heart, they genuinely think that they're having that moment. The clear intention is them being healed. Clear emotion is the gratitude or the emotion of them being healed, which is gratitude and love and abundance, right? So when they can hold that clear intention with that clear emotion of them being healed and them feeling grateful, there is no sense of, or they don't think, they know that they're in the moment and they've already healed. And when they open their eyes, that is just the reality. It's
No, it's look, first of all, very well explained. I think that was phenomenal, and the way you went about it, kudos. I mean, I think George Dispenza would be very proud. And the thing is, I am sure at first, all of this sounds a little bit daunting, and you might be thinking, how is this even useful for me? What do I do with even feeling like nothing? But essentially, what Parmeet has given us is a blueprint to be limitless. This
absolutely.
is what we try to preach on this channel. And I'll tell you one more thing Parmeet explained to me. Look, when we're talking about healing cancer and everything, what is cancer? Cancer is also an overgrown cell,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
It's just something which is should not be growing in your body, but it's growing. Me and both Parmeet are trying to reach to that level, and every day we do the practice, and we encourage you to do so. But at this point in time, we do feel bursts of these things with ourselves and in the actions that we do or the jobs that we're performing, correct? When you follow these practices, and I think maybe we can do another podcast on what these practices are
Yeah.
and how to execute them. And once you start doing this, because this would be your experience, your mind body connection, this is the time that you need to take to become limitless to feel that. I don't think there is no specified time, or like Parmeet said, that there were people who came who have been doing this for years, and probably people like Parmeet, this was their first time, correct? So it's all about, number one, what do you believe in? And if you do believe that, you can become a superior being than you were in this past second, and then just realizing that you are limitless. So these things do happen. Placebo medicine is one thing.
Yeah.
People take placebo medicine, and how does it help you? It's nothing. There is nothing. There's no formula inside. There are many examples.
Yeah, he Joe Dispenza has a book which is called "You Are a Placebo," right? So, and that has tons and tons of case studies wherein it shows the power of the placebo, wherein you can create disease and heal yourself. On the other hand, just by your thoughts, right? So, linking this back to what you said, right? To think is to be human. But when you get beyond our thinking, come to presence, presence is limitless. And that's what we preach at Wiser as well. Presence is absence of thoughts. And your thoughts are what make you you. It's everything known in your life. Those thoughts can develop on each other, but it's everything known. There's no sense of novelty. Everything that you think about, you already have thought about, or unless you go to a new experience, have a new experience, you have new thoughts. And that's what learning is essentially. It's essentially what makes us human, and it's essentially what holds us back as well. Everything that you think you can't do is you thinking first, right? You don't know in your heart that you can't do this. You think based on your societal conditioning and the thoughts you've accumulation of thoughts you've had throughout your life, based on your beliefs and your circumstances and whatnot. You think you can't do it, and your body responds to it. Yes, you can't.
I would say this is a primary experience, but I think the number one thing people fall victim to is the influence around them.
Absolutely.
Is listening to the people older than you, younger than you, on your left, on your right, your friends, whatever the case is. They don't know better than you do. This is, look, if you after listening to this podcast, forget everything Parmeet talked about it. Actually, don't, but forget everything, okay? If you think you're on the verge of something, you feel there is something, but you can't put a finger on it, go down this rabbit hole. Go down this rabbit hole, do your own research. We will link all
Yeah,
4 books. We will also link some videos. Go down this rabbit
yeah.
hole. Essentially, look, you got to understand what we are trying to communicate is that you are limitless. There are people, thousands and thousands of examples of people who have done tremendous things, who were the first in doing those things. Before that, they used to make fun of that person. And
That's
after he did or she did that, class, it was like, oh, you are the champion, you are this, you are that. But when they were doing this, there was nobody cheering them on. So do not listen to people and their limiting beliefs because they themselves are in their own journey, and establish a circle, establish, like, listen to our podcast more. Join
yeah.
our community, like, have people around you who are trying to show you that you are limitless and that you can achieve more. This is what Parmeet has done for me when he shares such experiences and he makes these things accessible. I cannot afford a $7,000 retreat, but he is kind enough to give us our time, give me time to share these things. There is no monetary benefit to him. You gotta ask, you gotta understand, why is he doing this? Joe Dispenza has not sponsored him or promised him another retreat. Why is he doing this? Because he himself is on the verge of something and he wants to share. Because with Yani, when you are nothing, when you think about nothing and you forget everything, the world becomes a better place because there is no biasness, there is no religion that you're associating yourself with, there is no caste, creed, or whatever it is, gender. You are just trying to do good, you're just trying to be better, you are just, you are realizing your full potential. You would make a world a better place because in my dictionary, you won't be a burden to yourself, to people around you. You would be a net positive.
Absolutely. And look, that's why I keep saying, like, I could be doing anything with that money, but going halfway across the world, spending that amount of money and meditating 6, 7 hours every day, where I could be drinking, partying, traveling, doing whatever.
Absolutely.
I feel this to be most valuable because you really can't put a price on, even if that person caused 1 degree of change in who I am, that 1 degree of change will over time compound into so much. After 10 years, that 1 degree of change will put you in a very different place. Like it will compound, right? So the value I put on it, it's invaluable, but it just comes down to, what.
No, brother, I would just want to say you already have affected one person tremendously. And of course, this, like you said, it's a ripple effect through this. I'm sure people listening, even with this podcast, Khalas, it will make a tremendous
Yeah,
benefit.
absolutely. Albert Einstein says that, I think that's a good way to end it as well. No problem can be solved by the same consciousness that created it. No problem can be solved by the same consciousness that created it, right? So, that current consciousness is your conditioning, your mind, the thoughts you have on a daily basis, the repetitive patterns of habits and behaviors and feelings. And the problems you have in life are a condition, a result of that consciousness. So you got to rise above to a level of consciousness that is not that. And how you do that is through presence. Your mind is your biggest limitation. We suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality, right? So when we get beyond the mind and come back to this present moment and become pure consciousness, we are limitless. And that's what we preach. And how we do that is very simple in theory, but it can take a lot of practice. And I've been practicing since 5 years. I meditate 1 hour every day, and it's very, very, very simple. There is a state of thoughts and no thoughts. Every time you have thoughts, bring it to a state of no thought. Bring it to presence. How do you come to presence? You've been blessed with your breath. The first thing you do when you're born is you breathe in, and the last thing you do when you die is you breathe out. Your breath is always with you throughout your life, and your breath is always in the present. You can't breathe for yesterday and you can't breathe for tomorrow. So, by just putting your attention on your breath, inhale and exhale, you're already in the present. But we can't stay present. As humans, we have to have an experience of life and come back to the 3D, have that world of duality, which gives sense to the experience. But it's not about staying present. This is what most people get wrong. Meditation is not about staying present, it's about coming back to the present as often and as frequently as you can, because your problems don't come from thinking, your problems come from overthinking. You thinking one time, okay, I'm kind of skydiving, it's scary, you have that fear. One time, normal, right? You've got that feedback. But you repeating that in your head hundreds and hundreds of times, there's a high chance you won't end up doing that activity and you were limited by your thoughts. So when you get beyond your thoughts, come back into the present, pure consciousness, no thoughts, you are limitless because there is no limitations, there is no conditioning, there is no programming. You're like a clean canvas and you can do whatever you want. And I used to think this is just a model of change for people who want to change their habits and things and stuff. But what I've seen has changed my life completely. Like, I don't see life as it is anymore because nothing is real. Like, literally, nothing is real. This is just a self created prophecy. And being limitless in my eyes, I used to think of it in very athletic terms and doing ultra long distance running, blah, blah, blah. But I saw people getting out of wheelchair after 18 years just through the power of their mind. Like, I don't know what else to believe anymore. I think this is just the start. And I think this next stage of evolution in our human world is just getting beyond the human and getting to that state of pure consciousness where we are limitless. We are supernatural beings.
Correct. Just a parting thought. Imagine when you were a baby, and imagine you growing up in an environment where nobody said no to you, nobody told you that this cannot be done, that cannot be done. Imagine the sort of person you would grow up to become, thinking that everything is possible, everything that I touch will turn into gold, everything that I say would be the best thing. Just imagine a world where all of us were never told no.
That's it. Like, it's if you've seen something throughout your life, your beliefs are based on it, and that's your reality. And I said it before as well. Imagine going out with David Goggins. Like, it's 100 kilometers would be a norm for me. So it's kind of like that. So I think that's a good way to put it. It's your mind creates your reality. Nothing is actually real. If you really go down this rabbit hole, you will discover that the chance of you perceiving reality as it is exactly zero. Zero, nada. So you make of it what you, with the experience that you call life is only exist in you.
Yeah,
Like, if you're not there, that experience doesn't exist. You in other people's life and in their experience is someone else. Like, in their experience of life, they think of you as something else. They have a neurological pathway in their brain of what you are and the emotions you evoke, but you give it.
I think I think Parmeet, like in the next episode, maybe we can prepare some material and talk about the pineal
Pineal
gland,
gland, yeah.
and yeah, pineal gland, and then also other things. I mean, now this is one thing. This is what you can do, but you don't even know the weapons or the war that is waged already against you from realizing your true,
Yes,
opening your third eye.
yes.
Let me just put it this way: you have a third eye,
Right.
and yes, and you have no. Even I struggle with this because we're just constantly being bombarded with things to distract us to not being able to open that third eye. So I think we can talk about that and the fluoride in your toothpaste, how everything connects.
Maybe you can Maybe you can just Google how fluoride calcifies your pineal gland and increases your inability to reach supernatural states and be pure awareness and consciousness. I think what I want to do is if you guys let us know in the comments if you have any questions and stuff so we can tackle that. This is a very, very complicated topic. There's a
I
lot of
love this. Yeah.
like a spectrum of opinions and beliefs in science as well. Um, Certain people believe it, certain people don't. But Joe Dispenza is really collecting evidence. You can go on his page, you can see the testimonials. It's not one, two, 3%. He's healed thousands of people with chronic conditions last year alone. So there was this coherence healing we did where we tapped into our pure consciousness and we were just sending love to the person in front of us. And that person doesn't have to do anything, just have to receive that love. And
Alas, this is what our mothers do.
exactly, bro. Like they've healed 35,000 people
Yeah.
remotely. Consciousness is not local in
I
space and time,
oh
right?
shit.
That frequency is permeating
Yeah.
throughout the world. So,
Yeah.
and they did this with another thing. So they took a cell, injected it with COVID virus, and put a cell in front of four people, which channeled into that energy and gave love to the cell. And the cell did not have COVID anymore. We will link this paper. This is peer reviewed and published already
Yeah.
in Science Direct, which is one of the biggest science journals in the world. So you can look at
Yeah.
that as well. Not to stretch this podcast any further. There's a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Absolutely.
rabbit holes we can go into from here, but you let us know what you think if you have any questions and what you would like us to cover next time, and then we'll do our best to bring you these information in the best way possible that brings you a little bit closer to your limitless potential. Thank you so much for sticking by, joining us, being patient with us, and giving us this opportunity to share this wisdom with you. We truly appreciate your presence and support. And until next time, have a beautiful day and week and whatever you're doing. We wish you all the best, and we will see you in the next one.
Ciao, guys.